Hey, how's everybody doing? Can everybody hear me? Yes?
Yep.
Awesome. There's Eli. Okay. Trevor's there, but he's got his mute on. So, yeah. So I really, I'm recording this now because we're just recording each one of these sessions for anybody that can't make it right away. You know what I mean? But I wanted to ask first, generally what I do is, hey, Trevor, how's it going, man?
Doing pretty swell.
Good. Glad you could join, man. I was going to say I'm recording this, you know what I mean? And usually what the status quo is let me go ahead and bring this chat thing in here too. So this way y'all can type in any questions that you'd like and I can see them, because when we start to get rolling, I'm going to mute all of you so that, it's basically to where I can, play and stuff like that and explain these things. But before that, I wanted to ask if there was any questions that any of you have based on the blues scale thing that we did before. I mean, I know that Eli was here before. I don't think Aaron or Trevor was here before. So, Trevor, you're a drummer, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha. No, that's cool. So did you get all the files in the Google Drive that I sent to everybody? I think you might have froze, Trevor. So, yeah, I think you froze, Trevor. Can everybody else hear me?
Yep.
Okay, cool. At least it's not just, I'm still wondering if it's me or not. So, okay, I think you unfroze, Trevor. I didn't get your answer. Did you get all those files or no?
No, did you send them an email?
Yeah, I sent a link to them. So
I will double check.
Okay, well, the reason is because a lot of this is more harmonic based kind of teaching, but I didn't forget about the drummers, because what I did was I put a whole drumming kind of file. So it's kind of like, not only is it links to like some videos, but it's also some written out things that will help you with like the Max Roach style of drumming, some basic patterns and things like that, and like bebop swinging and things like that, trading fours, things you might already be used to, but it doesn't hurt to have those resources as well. And then kind of what I consider the pinnacle of drumming, which is Tony Williams, because Tony can do it all. I mean, if you wanted to, sympathize, like what would it sound like for somebody musically falling down a flight of stairs? Tony Williams could play that. So just because he's that good. So there's a little bit of Tony, but there's a lot of Max Roach, which is kind of like the epitome of what kind of combo drumming is in like a small group or a jam session kind of format, which is what this whole thing is. I mean, ideally, just to kind of reiterate what I said before in the other session, is we would all be together and we'd go through some of these things and then we'd just play through some of them together as a group. But this is kind of like just a starter until we can get back to normal and we can kind of meet all together and just play. So yeah, so I did not forget about the bassist Eli or the drummers Trevor. So there are some bass and drums resources in that thing. So yeah, awesome.
I looked through that book that you sent. That was it had like everybody in there.
I told you, yeah. I mean, it was like, it's like the jazz bass Bible, man. I mean, it's everything you could go for. Charlie Hayden, Dave Holland, Ron Carter, Oscar Pettiford, they're all in there. So yeah. So today, what I want to do is, first of all, I wanted to ask, I guess since Asa's here, Asa and Eli, I wanted to see if there were any kind of questions that y'all may have had based on the blues scales or some of those list things with the applications, etc.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Did any of you check out any of those lists?
I have none.
Specifically Eli, because you're the only one
yeah.
up here. Sorry.
I was checking them out while you were talking about them, and I have like the iReal Pro app and stuff like that, so I already had that.
Okay, wonderful.
And I've also got my real book here, and I think, Aaron, did you have yours?
Tony Allen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You've got the pocket one. Awesome. That's the perfect size to take to gigs. You just put it in your back pocket and you're good, man. Yeah.
Got it for free in New Orleans. It was pretty great.
Do what? Yeah. You got it for free in New Orleans?
Yeah.
Nice. Ah, I love New Orleans. I've been there more times than you could shake a stick at. So, and I got some buddies who are some of the street musicians down there. So they play on Roll and Magazine Street and stuff like that. So, anyway, awesome. So, let me ask this question then. Aaron, did you get those files that I sent from the Google Drive?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we're going to be. That's kind of like the pecking order of what we're doing, right? So last session, I'm not sure if you watched the video or not, but last session we went over the supporting materials, talking about different apps that you can get, like the iReal Pro for your phone. That's basically like you could put every song that Aebersold basically ever did on your phone, and it's a play along. You know what I mean? You could just stick some headphones in, you're good, you know? There's also just tons of jazz books, films, like documentaries that's got links to YouTube. So, because I know everybody's kind of going stir crazy right now. I mean, Miss Holloway's definitely going stir crazy. So she's kind of driving me along with her. But there's also just a list of 50 essential artists. So not saying that you have to like everybody, just to kind of reiterate that point, right, Aaron and Trevor. But what it is these guys are legends for a reason. Okay, so you might not like Ornette Coleman, and that's totally cool. I'm not pushing for you to like Ornette Coleman if you don't. I'm just saying that these guys are legends for a reason because they have something very serious to say within the whole history of the jazz music idiom. So definitely people you should check out. You should be informed if you don't like somebody. That's what I always used to tell my band kids. If you don't like it, that's fine, but you got to have a concrete resource and reason that you don't like it, right? You can't go, because it's stupid. That's not concrete. And you can't say you like it because, I don't know, it's cool. This way, you can listen to these 50, legends of the music, and you can be informed of why you like them or why you don't like them. Whether that's Trevor, Billy Higgins drumming with Ornette Coleman. You're like, I don't like Ornette, but I like Billy Higgins drumming with him. So I took from that, or, I didn't like his drumming, but I did like the group. Things like that, right? So, but today, I want to get to the jazz scales. And I want to talk about that because this might take 2 sessions to kind of get through, but that's okay. Understand that as a precursor, what I'm going to be talking about with the jazz scales is essentially kind of labeling what tools would be, if this makes sense. So when I'm talking about a bebop dominant or a bebop major or a bebop minor or a pentatonic scale, or major pentatonic scale or a minor pentatonic scale, etc., right? It is almost as if I am labeling, this is a hammer, this is a screw, this is a Phillips head screwdriver, this is a flathead screwdriver, just so you kind of get the analogy of what I'm going with. And the reason being is because all of these things, as we go on, are going to be, these terms are going to be thrown out at you, right? So if I sit there and go, well, when you're looking at this minor 7 in this song, because that's what eventually what we're going to get to is how do you break down what all those chord changes mean in a song, and how do you improvise over them? So I'm showcasing the tools, and then I'm going to rely on you to understand the terminology and the nomenclature so that when we get to that point, then I'm going to sit there and go, Aaron, so when you see a 2-5 progression of a D minor 7 to a G7 flat 9 to a C major 7, it's simple. You just got to go Dorian to Mixolydian to, bebop major. And then you're going to be like, wait, what? And it's all these things that I'm going to be starting talking about now. So just so you know, okay? And for Eli, I was going to say there is some bass techniques that I'm going to be talking about later on that will be able to assist you, because it's essentially the same thing that we're all going to be doing as musicians, whether you're a trumpet player, a sax player, whatever, but it's essentially the exercise that we will get to using all of these skills is what bass players have to do on every tune in order to walk bass lines that are smooth and connected. Okay, so yeah. It's not exclusionary to you.
Yeah.
Everything is, it's tight knit. Okay, so one last thing I'm going to say before I go ahead and mute. Asia, I have none. Asa says, I have none. I have none what?
I think that was questions.
Maybe
Yeah.
that was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a, yeah.
No.
That was when you asked your questions. Oh, okay. Good. Thank you, Asa. Appreciate it. So basically, where was I at? Yeah. So Aaron, the last thing I was going to say that I mentioned before was that, you know, with jazz, you kind of have to throw out the rule book of things that you learned in band, right? So you're not expected to play with a pretty tone. You're not expected to, you know, necessarily, we don't want a quote unquote classical tone. Jazz musicians are kind of known as the misfits of the music world because you can have 100 trumpet players and you want them all to sound individual. You want them all to sound different, right? So Miles Davis sounds completely different than Dizzy, which sounds completely different than Clifford Brown, which sounds completely different than Don Cherry. And that's the whole point. But the one common thread among them all is individuality, bless you, and is individuality, but is also swingability, right? So what you want to do, two things is, I don't know if you know, Aaron, do you know about doodle tonguing?
Doodle tonguing?
Yeah.
I know what double tonguing is.
No, not taka 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 taka, not triple tonguing, tataka tataka. I'm talking about like doodle tonguing, right? So instead of going like hitting your tongue on the back of your teeth, like ta ta ta, like that, like a normal articulation, it's a softer articulation. It's like doodle 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 doo.
Doodle 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 doodle. All right.
Right. But see, for instance, so you would go. That's a typical articulation, right? But with doodle tonguing, it's more laid back, it's more softer, and it's more swingable, right? That swingability is present. You hear the difference, right?
Yeah.
I mean, still separation between the notes, but it's softer separation. It's not drawing specific marks in between the separation between each
Yeah,
note.
I get where you're coming from.
Yeah. And you're going to just have to pardon my very, very sorry trumpet playing.
I don't care.
I'm a sax player, first and foremost. I'm not going to deny it. So, yeah. So that's the other thing I wanted to get to that I mentioned last time. And I know it's 2 weeks and that's such a long time, but we're not going to have another big gap like that. So hopefully everything will go more sequential. Okay. So that's the reason I'm also opening up this thing like this. So, okay, I'm going to get to the scale modes now. And yeah, so everybody should have on that same NOYO Jazz Combo resources. This should be folder number 3. This is Jazz Scales, okay? And what the first one is scale modes. And let me shut this thing out and I'll open this one up. And hopefully, let me see. Yeah. There should be a button here. Yeah, share screen. Awesome. Okay. So if I do this, you should all see this, which is what I see from, it should say modes of the major scale. Does everybody see this? Aaron, Eli, Trevor, everybody see this where it says modes of the major scale? I just want to make sure. Yes. Okay, good. I got a thumbs up. Good. Awesome. So here we go. So the first one is called Ionian, and I'm circling around right here. Okay. So that is C to C major scale, right? Just like we all know it. Now, if you go D right here, D to D, right? This is actually this scale, which is the Dorian scale. Okay, so it's almost like starting on scale degree 2 and going up to scale degree 2 within the C major scale. All right, these things are very typical. Dorian will be your best friend in jazz improvisation, believe me. Okay. Phrygian is E to E, so it's like if we were starting here and going up to E in the C major scale, right? So that's Phrygian. When you see a symbol like this, now also notice that the C triangle is the same thing as if it were to say major 7, like this, right? It's the same thing. You don't necessarily have to have the triangle. But notice that for Dorian, it says D minus 7. It's the same thing as if it were to say like this, min 7, minor 7, okay? And E minor 7, you could use the Phrygian mode, but notice this. This is an F major sharp 4. So that's as if you were to play this note and go all the way up. Now, it looks just like an F major scale, except you've got F, G, A, and normally this would be a B flat. And that's also scale degree 4. Notice that this is 1, 2, 3, 4. And now normally this would be a B flat, but because it's a sharp 4, it becomes a Lydian mode, right? So therefore it's a B natural. And then everything else is just like the C major scale, C, D, E, F, right? So that's where the sharp 4 right here comes into play. Now, this is your second best friend. Dorian is your first best friend. I'm going to put a little cloud around it because we're going to pretend like it's our best friend on the playground. And this is your second best friend, which is Mixolydian, right? So Mixolydian is basically 5 to 5 in the key of C. So it's if you were starting on G up here, G, and going all the way up to G. Mixolydian, you'll notice, is the exact same thing as the G major scale, except that the 7th is flatted. So you got G, A, B, C, D, E, F natural, G. And the reason that happens is because this is a dominant chord right here. That G7, that implies dominant. Now, the notes of that chord are as follows: 1, 3, 5, and 7. Now, a lot of people are not sure if they can necessarily hear dominant chords in their heads, but this is a pop example that I like to give. If you've ever heard the Beatles recording of Twist and Shout from like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, then you know exactly what a dominant chord sounds like. And it's that ah, 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 ah. And when you stack that 1, 3, 5, 7, that is what any dominant chord like this right here, the G7, it could be a C sharp 7, it doesn't matter. That's what any dominant chord sounds like. That's why it's imperative that this is the same thing as a G major scale, except that 7th is flatted, okay? Now, as you get into the 6th mode, this is A minor 7, and it's A to A, and notice what it is. It's an A natural minor scale. You flat the 3rd, you flat the 7th, and you flat the 6th. So A, B, C, D, E, F natural, G natural, A. Okay, but the special name that they have for that is Aeolian. Now, notice this. This is the interesting one right here. B with a little circle with a slash through it, right? No, it's not Scandinavian chords. What this is it's B half diminished. Now, if it were just B with a circle like so, then what that would be is actually a B fully diminished, okay? But the thing about that is that that would mean a different thing. But the line through the circle means that it's half diminished. Now, that being said, B half diminished can also be written this way. B minor 7 flat 5. And that's just a long nomenclature way of saying the exact same thing. So it's really whatever you prefer, right? It's like sitting there saying your name could be Aaron or it could be Aaron. You know what I'm saying? There's just, right? But my whole point is that it's two different ways of showing the exact same thing, okay? So a circle through it means half diminished. Minor 7 flat 5 is a more explanation way of saying the exact same thing. And basically what that is, you can notice that if you go through the same scale degrees, you have a minor 7 if you go 1, 3, 5, 7. Now a B minor 7 would be B, D, F sharp, A, but you're flatting the 5. So that F sharp becomes F natural. You see what I'm saying? So that's the cool part about that, is that this, I prefer this, but I've been doing this long enough that I know that that means the exact same thing. So if you prefer the circle with a line through it, c'est la vie, that's fine. But you'll notice that some of my own things that I provide, say minor 7 flat 5, and the exact same thing. So yes, it's B to B within the C major scale. There's no sharps, there's no flats, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. But this, hopefully you can see the outline of why the chord is the way it is, right? Between this 1, 3, 5, and 7. And the more you start thinking about these scale degrees 1, 3, 5, and 7 of these scales, you'll be better equipped to understand what these symbols mean. Because when you see this B half diminished, that's, yes, that's the scale that you can use. But these are the contact points, the B, D, F, and A. Now, here's the part that's the mind blower. All of this information is only for the key of C. How many other major keys are there? 11 more. There's 12 total. So this doesn't matter. This could be in the key of G. You change this to G major 7, and it's G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. And then you go A to A in the key of G, and that's A Dorian. You see what I'm saying, right? Everybody cool?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So that's the scale modes for just the modes. Talking about Ionian, Dorian, who is your first best friend, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, who's your second best friend, Aeolian, and Locrian. Now, why are Dorian and Mixolydian your best friends? Because this progression, this minor 7 to this dominant 7, will eventually become what we call the 2-5 progression. Okay? So, and there are bunches of different 2-5 progressions, and that's what we're going to get to after the scale study. But this is important to know. That's why I'm making this connection now for you, is that the Dorian and the Mixolydian modes with these scale degrees or scale symbols right here are very common together. Okay? Now, let's get to pentatonics. Now, this is something that Aaron has actually talked to me about before. Yeah, this is something that Aaron has talked to me about before, in that he said, well, I know a lot of pentatonics, you know, and that's how I kind of improvise over blues things. So, but what it is you can see that there are major pentatonics and there are minor pentatonics. Now, penta means what? 5, right? So that being said, notice that there are 5 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this pentatonic scale, and same for minor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How they're comprised and made up is different. So the formula is the same no matter what, as we go through all of these 12, and I've provided all 12 major keys here. It's scale degree 1 or root, that's why I put an R, 2, 3, just like you're going up a major scale. Then you skip 4, you jump to 5 and 6. So 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. That's how you make up a C major pentatonic right there. C, D, E, G, A. Now, here's the cool part. The C major pentatonic, if you changed this, right, and you took out this note and you put it here, and you've got A, C, D, E, G, I want you to scroll down and look at the A minor pentatonic. A, C, D, E, G. So before you look at this whole screen just on surface value and go, man, there is no way I'm ever going to get to learn all that. You learn half of it, you got all of it. That's the cool thing. Everything is interchangeable. Okay? Because even though this is the A minor pentatonic, right? A minor, it's also the C major pentatonic because it's C, D, E, G, A. Scroll back up. C, D, E, G, A. See? So if you learn the C major one, you've already learned the A minor one. Now, does anybody know the correlation between C and A?
Major sixth. That
Not just that, A minor is the same relative key signature as C major. Notice that. There are no sharps or flats in this A minor key signature. Same as there are no sharps or flats in this C major key signature. And these 5 notes, right? So that's the thing, is that the C major pentatonic is relative to the exact same notes as its relative minor pentatonic. All these theory things that people were throwing out before that you're like, yeah, I guess whatever, you know what I mean? It makes sense. All of it will come into fruition through improvisation. So, I mean, this is the thing, is this is really canceling the idea that we are just willy-nilly making up these notes out of thin air. You know, it's like, no, I feel this note. No, you don't. That's not what jazz musicians really are. We're working theorists. You know, we have this knowledge that we take with us wherever we go so that we can manipulate chord changes and make the best possible musical decisions based off all these bag of tricks that we know with all these tools. And that's basically what I'm trying to invest in by sharing this with you. You see what I'm saying? And it doesn't matter. So let's go. I mean, you can, but to figure out the relative minor to the major, Eli, yes, you're right. It is a major sixth. Or you could go down 4 chromatic notes from whatever the major is. So if you went C, B, B flat, A, you're there. Either way you want to look at it. You can go up or you can go down in order to get to the same point. I know I kind of sound like Willy Wonka at this point, and I'm sorry, but let's press on, right? So let's take another one, right? Let's take B flat. So what would before I even start going off, what would the relative minor of B flat be?
G minor.
G minor.
G minor is B flat major, absolutely. So let's check it out. We've got B flat, let's mark it here. Now let's go to G. We've got B flat there, okay, good. Now let's go back up to B flat. C, let's go back down to G, C. So far so good. D, D, good. F, F, and G. But that's going to be at the bottom, right? Yep, G. So everything works out. G minor is the exact same thing as B flat major. So we've got that going for us, which is good. Now, here's the best part about it. Whether you're in B flat, 7, or whether you're in G minor 7, those same 5 notes work. So basically what I'm trying to sculpt here and let you know, specifically, Aaron, because you were telling me that you're like, well, I already know some pentatonics, right? But now, if you know that B flat major pentatonic right up here, right? Now there's 2 keys that you can play those exact same licks on, whether it's a G minor blues, like down here, or if it's a B flat 7, like just a normal B flat blues, right? You can still play these 5 notes, or you could play those 5 notes. They're interchangeable. It's kind of like a reversible belt, right? There you go. So that's the pentatonic scales. Now, does everybody kind of know how the pentatonic scales sound? I know Aaron does. Yes, Eli does?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see. Hold on. Okay. By the way, let me just add this. I cannot see any, what do you call it? Any questions you may be typing. So Trevor or Asa, I can't see any questions, just so you know, okay? While I'm screen sharing, okay? So I'm assuming that you guys are getting this. Hopefully I don't have a flood of questions when I stop the screen sharing. So, pentatonic scales, right?
But can I ask one thing about pentatonics?
Sure, go ahead.
Could you use a major pentatonic over a dominant chord or just a major 7 chord? Because it seems like if it's a dominant chord, like the 6 would clash with the flat 7 and like it wouldn't sound good.
Actually, it can go either way because the 6 is more of a passing tone.
Oh, okay.
Unless it's the minor. And then it becomes 1.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's really nice as a passing tone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. It's a cool passing tone. But the idea is that rather than trying to hit each note as a specific landing point, Eli, what it is that pentatonics, much like the blues scale, are a nice thing to add into a particular like dominant 7 or something like that. If you wanted to put like a pentatonic lick, or if you wanted to do like a blues scale lick in the middle of that, let's say, 2 bars of like a C7.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Then
Yeah.
you could easily go like, something like that, or just it would work the exact same thing for a C blues scale. You can go. You could sit there. They're kind of interchangeable, right?
Yeah.
But it's got this great quality to it, and the pentatonic sound. You hear this sound all the time in like pop music. Like you hear a lot of guitar solos, and they'll use a lot of like blues-based things and pentatonic things. John Coltrane was very, very instrumental in using the pentatonic scale among other tools, especially if you listen to Train play with Miles, especially like those recordings of So What, like the live ones and things like that. You hear pentatonic scales. Anytime you hear Coltrane go like daya, he's generally going in between 2 different notes of that pentatonic scale. And that's great for anybody to learn, whether you're a bass player, a sax player, trumpet player, flute player, kazoo player, right? Is that Train was a master of the pentatonic scale. And that's what's cool about that. And if you really want like top-notch how to use it, listen to Train, specifically early Coltrane. So let's move on, if we don't have any questions about about pentatonic scales, to the bebop scale. And here I'm going to go a little bit quickly in between the 3, just to kind of show the differences. Okay, so let's take the C bebop major scale. We all know that the major scale is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. But they're adding in this note right here. Now, why is that? Well, it's basically because when you're phrasing bebop lines, you want to make sure that you have a connecting thread of 8 notes, because bebop, a lot of bebop is based on 8 notes. So if you go your regular major scale, you only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but you're hitting an octave on that 8th note. You see what I'm saying? So it would go like 1 and 2 and 3, skip that one, and 4 and it's hard to connect lines when you hit an octave note. So, and it also, the phrasing of jazz is on 2 and 4, not on 1 and 3. Most rock music is on 1 and 3. Do do ch, right? But with jazz, everything is 1, 2, 3, 4, So with that being said, you want to add this note, which is always a flat sixth or a half step above the fifth, to add continuity to the line. Okay? So what happens is instead of going, which is your typical thing, and nobody would ever play that in a jazz song, right? Even if you try to go through the whole major scale, doesn't really work if you're trying to do lines that are connecting from one chord to the next. So even though there is that flat sixth, it doesn't really sound unmajor. It still sounds very much like a major scale, which is important, because that brings us to the next part of deciphering just what bebop is, which is chromaticism. Whether it's chromaticism through chords, or whether it's chromaticism through scales and improv. So what I wanted to make sure that we at least get to in this first go round is this is the difference for the major scale, that flat sixth. Now, if we're look at the bebop minor scale, right? Notice that we have 1, 2, the flat third, which is, you know, very typical of minor scales, 4, 5, 6, normal 6, the flat 7, but then we have a major 7 root. So this right here is our chromaticism in that. Where before in the bebop major scale, this was our chromaticism from 5, flat 6, 6. But the bebop minor scale, the chromaticism comes from flat 7, natural 7, and root. Okay? So this would be like a C minor, and you could go up this scale and back down. So I played you the C major bebop scale, and you could hear that it still sounded very major while keeping that chromaticism. Now with a minor, it's the exact same thing. Still sounds minor, but you have this added chromaticism. And once again, notice it's not 8 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different notes with an octave. And that's the important part. Okay? Now, recap. You've got major scale with a flat 6. That's the bebop major. You've got minor scale with the flat 7 and the major 7. Now, if you were to take out this note, what would you have? Does anybody know?
Dorian.
Harmonic minor. Wait, melodic. That's a melodic minor.
Oh yeah.
Harmonic. You said it right the first time, Aaron.
Yeah, but the A is natural.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
I meant, and you flat this, right? That's how you get that kind of harmonic minor sound. But if we don't worry about that and we keep the flat 7 and that one, then you get this interesting chromaticism, right? Now, if we were to sit there and combine this part with this part, I'm going to do a little, there we go. We combine this with this. Guess what we get? The dominant bebop scale. So it's not that different. It's not like 3 separate entities, right? That's what I'm trying to I'm trying to break this down so I show you that it's easier than what it looks like. It looks like a lot of information, but really a lot of it's interchangeable. It's not near as bad as what it looks. So notice we have the C major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But all you have to do is go flat 7, natural 7, and that, root. And notice again, it's 8 different notes and the root, whether that's the octave or not. And this is the one out of all 3, the bebop dominant scale is what is used a majority of the time. If you go what is most usable that you see in solos or when you transcribe solos, the first one would be bebop dominant scale. The second one would be the bebop major scale. And then in certain situations, the bebop minor scale is used. So that's the pecking order: dominant, major, minor. And this totally sounds bebop. And that's just the scale. Now, if you were to take what a lot of beboppers do for the chromaticism, and you take that top part going down from here down to here, right? And then you start on another lick or something from that A. This is what a lot of beboppers start to do. But notice that I started with these notes. And then from here, you just launch off to wherever. But it starts with these. So, in closing, what I want to say is I only hit upon the C major ones, but I have given all 12. Okay, so if you're interested, you know, and that's the thing. There's really no skipping, and that part is really just hard work, because I mean, any given tune could have 4 or 5 different 2/5 progressions, right? And they could be G minor 7 to C7, and you could use some of these, or they could go in, you know, for the bridge section to an E flat minor 7 to an A flat 7. So you're going to need to know these, like E flat as well, or the A flat 7. And that's what's kind of important, is that there's no magic bullet, so to speak. You just need to really go through all of these and get tight with them. Now, one thing I would tell you to do is when you're practicing these, and Aaron, I said this last week on the video, is put your metronome to where it clicks on 2 and 4. Don't make it click on 1, 2, 3, 4. So when your metronome, for instance, I'm going to do this real quick. Go to metronome, and I'm going to put it on this. Pro metronome. Metronome is your best friend. Four, 4. Boom. Okay. So it's going 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So that's what I'm saying. Don't go da 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 da. Nothing like that. What you want to make sure that you're doing is that you're practicing with that metronome on 2 and on 4, and that you're practicing that scale. And, you know, I made that same thing for saxophones last week for the blues scale. You want to make sure that you're emphasizing every other note so that it's in a swingable way. And eventually you want to work up your speed to where you can get it twice that fast while still keeping the swingability. Because you will use these bebop scales and these pentatonic scales, okay? And eventually, we're going to go back to the scale modes. Like I said, the Dorian and the Mixolydian will be your best friends, okay? So I know that, there we go. I know that this is a whole lot of information to you, but, you know, hopefully that gives you plenty to work on for the week. Okay. I'm just now seeing some questions here. Asa says, is there any significance to the Mixolydian and Dorian being the 2 and 5? I'm thinking a 2-5-1. Yes, Asa. Sorry, I just now saw this question because I came back on here. But yes, that's exactly what I said. The Mixolydian and Dorian we will get into as we get into 2-5 progressions, and that is the most common progression. The 2-5 progression in jazz is equivalent to the words a, and the in the English language. You try saying a sentence without the words a, and, or the. It's almost impossible. So almost every jazz song has some sort of way of using the 2-5 progression. So you're dead on, Asa. Eli says, is Phrygian normally used over a minor 7 flat 9 chord rather than a regular minor 7 chord? Yeah, you can do that. You can do that, Eli. That's possible.
It's just like the E to like the having the F natural rather than like the F sharp for E Phrygian.
Right. And a lot of people, you know, here's the thing is that Phrygian is mainly used, to be honest, I'm looking at it right here, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. And a lot of people use that Phrygian mode in Spanish tunes. So like La Fiesta by Chick Corea or something like that, they'll say, oh, think Phrygian mode here. Because it is that half-step connection between the E and the F right off the bat. So yeah, you could do that. Although I will tell you, don't settle into that one avenue for a minor 7 flat 9 chord, because there are different things. You know, you will rarely ever see a minor 7 flat 9 chord. You'll see a lot of dominant 7 flat 9 chords.
Yeah.
But the reason that there's the dominant 7 flat 9 is that if you basically cut off the root, you're spelling out a diminished scale. So that diminished quality is what gives it kind of that kind of sound. But yes, as far as the Phrygian is generally used in like Spanish jazz tunes like that, you know, like Chick Corea stuff. But don't get too locked into like, oh, Phrygian is the skeleton key for this. There's rarely any kind of skeleton keys in jazz. You just need to know like this big bag of tricks that you take with you, you know, for every jam session. And that's kind of what we're getting all y'all ready for. So, Trevor, before we get out of here, I want to make sure that you can either find those files or that I can
I got them.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I checked my email. I found them.
Awesome. Very cool, dude. So, okay, real quick. Does anybody have any questions before we end this particular meeting about the bebop scales and stuff? Yeah, Trevor.
I have a quick, this is more of like a goofy question. What is your favorite scale?
My favorite scale?
Yeah.
I love diminished scales, man. And that's actually what we're going to get to next week is the second half of the jazz scales folder, which is diminished scales, the jazz scale workout, the whole tone scales, and altered scales. I do love some whole tone scales too, because they're kind of like this I don't know, they sound very like magical. You know what I mean? As you go through, it's all whole steps, but it sounds like you're like transporting to another world whenever you hear like a whole tone scale. So I love that, but I also like the drama that naturally sounds within a diminished scale. I think a diminished scale is super hip because it's also interchangeable. That's a loaded question, Trevor. So, but we'll get into that next time. As long as nobody else has any other pressing questions, what I would say is what I said last week. Work on this stuff. If there's something that you're not sure about and you want to email me, upload a video just like from your phone going, is this what you mean as far as like phrasing or doodle tonguing, Aaron? Or, you know, is this the way I'm supposed to phrase this on the saxophone if it's coming from like Asa? Feel free, you know what I mean? Like there are no stupid questions, you know what I mean? And the whole point is that you get something out of this, okay? So whether that's from the jazz bass book with Eli or walking bass lines, or whether that's from the drum patterns to Trevor and to Nino or whatever, if it's just how to approach these things from a wider mental view, you know what I mean, of improv. We just want to make sure everybody gets something out of this, you know what I mean? So that we're all learning new tools and of the improv trade, okay? So if you have any questions, feel free to
I actually
ask.
have a sorry.
No, go ahead.
Have you heard of Band Labs, like that program?
No, what's
There's a
Band Labs?
I haven't personally used it. I would like if you would need to talk to anybody, I'd ask Dr. Holter. He's been pushing it for the lab group. But
Gotcha. Okay.
so I believe I haven't personally used it yet, but I believe it's a program where you can like play with other musicians live. It's kind of like Zoom, but there's not latency, because I know there's latency on Zoom and it's really hard to get anything coordinated.
Totally.
Maybe if that could get figured out, maybe we could try and like play some stuff together rather than just talk about it. Like if
I hear exactly what you're saying, because it's so much more constructive to play. You know what I mean? But I mean, that's the thing, is that this is basically, there is a silver lining to this, Eli, believe it or not. Okay. So here's the thing. The way that this structure was going to happen, as if none of this coronavirus mess happened, right, is that for the first hour, we're going to meet every Sunday for 2-hour rehearsals. And the first hour was going to be me basically doing what I'm doing right now and explaining these concepts. And then the second hour was going to be playing some tunes that could utilize some of these concepts. So basically, the good part is that we're doing all this first, so that whenever this all passes and that we do meet up, then we don't have to worry about all this. Then we could just play, man. And that's the cool part. So we're getting through all the hard stuff first, so that whenever we do meet in person, we could just play and say, you know, forget about it. You know, we've already done all that. Go back to the videos. They've been recorded. So that's the good part, you know. But I agree. I will look into it, and I'll ask Dr. Holter about it and see if that's even a possibility. The only thing that I have an issue with about a band lab kind of concept, Eli, is that jazz is very reactionary. It's a very reactionary music, right? So, and Trevor, this goes specifically to you, right? So let's say if a soloist, like a sax soloist or a trumpet soloist, was taking a solo on a 12-bar blues, right? And they just start going off on a blues thing like, then you're not going to sit there and go, you're gonna respond to that, man. You're gonna go bam, bam, bam on the cymbals, right?
Yeah, and that's what I've always felt with like during my jazz band, is that a lot of the songs aren't really like scripted. It's more of like just improv, and you have to like see the people and understand what's going on within the band to actually know how to react and what to do. So That's why I would feel online jazz it wouldn't really be the same.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the other thing too, Eli, is that if we're all trying to do this and you just heard this guy kind of going off on this like tritone substitution or something, right? Then you're not going to sit there and just keep walking. You're going to want to respond. Or there's so many like little things where if a soloist kind of looks back at the rhythm section, kind of does his eyebrows like, hey, you know, we're about to get interesting here. Then you're going to dig in. It's a very reactionary music. So that's the only concern I have. It might work better in a lab group situation, but I'll at least look into it and get Dr. Holter's 2 cents on it. So like I said, I'm not aware of it, so I'll ask him about it. you've got my promise. I'll
Yeah.
talk to him. Okay.
Okay.
So, but yeah, like I said, if any of y'all have any questions, please don't hesitate. You know what I mean? And even if you have something that you want to share, just like what Eli did, by all means, email me, because I am not, I'm not the end all be all of every application tech savvy program that there is for jazz. I know about jazz, and I'm going to give you what tools that I was given, and hopefully, even if you can make your own kind of combinations from things that you've learned and things that I'm teaching you, so be it. It's not a perfect art form. It's all about individuality and expression. Okay. So, but that being said, if any of y'all have any questions or want to record anything and get my take on it, by all means, feel free to do so. Okay. And yeah, if that's cool, we just click that link. I'll give the same link in an email later on in the week for next Sunday. And we'll go through diminished scale, jazz scale workout, whole tone scales, and altered scales next week. And then that will finish the scale thing. And then we can get to 2/5s. And that's really the meat and potatoes of the jazz world, improv world. Okay? Cool. All right. Everybody stay healthy. Wash your hands religiously. Hand sanitizer, all that good stuff. Okay? Don't want to see anybody get sick. Okay? All right. Bye, everybody. Have a great week.
Bye.